What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Ask E Everything. The question today is there a silver lining to the COVID-19 pandemic? Is there anything good coming out of this event? Or is it really just an utter chaotic destruction with no upside whatsoever? Thanks everyone for checking this video out. Before we get into the question, just want to continue to thank the folks that are tuning into view. You will well know by my big number of subscribers, we're still kind of getting things rolling here as a channel as far as that goes. Definitely looking forward to some more subscribers. Please subscribe if you like what you see, even if you only tune in for a couple minutes. If you like anything about what's going on here, it'd be really helpful. So we can also start getting some more folks taking a look and get some questions actually rolling in. Until that time where we can actually get some questions generated by viewers, I'm just going to continue to kind of look around in the world as I always do and see what questions spark my interest. No matter what goes on or whether or not this channel takes off or stays kind of calm for a while, I'm not going to stop doing what I do, which is, being inspired by things that I see and taking a kind of a deeper look or a closer look at them, trying to get to some answers of my own. So the question for today, is there a silver lining to the COVID-19 pandemic? This question came about as I was reading an article actually in a local newspaper where I live, and it was basically one of these articles which I'm sure most of you have seen or thousands of versions of, where a journalist is interviewing some folks in some type of sector, be it job sector or just some different aspects of life, talking about how things are different because of the pandemic and what the outlook is going forward as we continue to deal with it, and then eventually progressing to some questions regarding what things are going to be like on the other side of the pandemic, if there's even such a thing as the other side. It seems like this might be something that has some lasting impressions for a very long time. Anyhow, there were about 8 to 10 folks interviewed in this article, and each person was asked similar questions. Most of them being, what did you do? What was life like just prior to this whole thing taking place? What are your struggles now? What keeps you up at night? And, basically, what are you worried about going forward? And then at the end of each person's individual interview, there was this question: do you see a silver lining? And as I was reading through the article, most folks were doing, a really honest job at answering these questions. And even though there was a pretty grave picture painted by most of them with regard to what their current lives looked like and how their jobs or businesses were affected, and just kind of the impact, both financially and emotionally, that it had taken on them, which obviously everyone can relate to. When it came time to answer the question about the silver lining, as I'm going down through each person, they're each saying something positive. So there was a dairy farmer, for example, who was talking about the struggles of not being able to move as much dairy and just having a lot of waste and not having the sales that they're used to having, and she had mentioned that she has subsequently started to donate a lot of dairy to food banks and things like that. And when she was asked about her silver lining, she stated that she thought that the great thing about this troubling time was that folks are starting to take a look at the farmer and appreciate the farmer and the process of farming foods, and to just actually put a spotlight on all the hard work that goes into that, and the difficulty and challenges of that business. And also just that folks are going to be more interested in maybe eating more truly local and supporting these small businesses going forward, now that they've seen how delicate that they can be, even after just a few months of some downside economically. So it was kind of an inspiring article where it was, emoting and kind of empathizing with what everyone was dealing with, and then, getting to this neat little section where there was some promise delivered, and it kind of would, go a little bit ebb and flow as I'm reading through it. I finally got to a sector that I was quite interested in, having worked in this space for quite some time, and it was actually a restaurateur, a local chef who owns several restaurants in the area. And the title of his little individual article was called Sad Stories. And the picture he painted, again, was pretty brutal. Again, pretty accurate and honest as well, but I'm sure anywhere you live in the country or world, you're able to relate to how tricky it's going to be for restaurants to handle this situation as far as reopening and getting back to full strength, or any kind of strength economically, with all of the restrictions that are taking place as far as social distancing and whatnot. So anyway, I'm reading about things that I understand as far as the downside goes, and kind of waiting to get to that last part to see, what his take was on the upside, or on the positive note that we can find, if there is one, regarding the pandemic. And his answer was quite shocking to me. He essentially said that while he acknowledges that the time away from the restaurant and, kind of extra time around family and back in his home situation, could be something that was good if that was something folks could really relate to and sink their hearts and teeth back into. Even acknowledging that, though, that, at night he can't sleep because all he can think about is losing his business and his friends losing their businesses. And so his answer to whether or not he could see a silver lining was, "I just don't think so." And it was the last words of the article, and it left me kind of scratching my head a little bit for a lot of reasons. But it also fired me up in a way that I thought was just kind of provocative enough to address it here with a video. My answer to the question here is whether or not there's a silver lining to the COVID-19 pandemic is very simple. As a matter of fact, it took me no time whatsoever to come up with it. The answer is yes. The answer is, of course, there is a silver lining to the pandemic. And my answer is that you could have filled in that question, the blank of that question, with basically any terrible happening or terrible event that has taken place that we can imagine or even think of, or that has already happened. And my answer would most likely, I would say, it probably would always be yes. In one way, I was kind of angry at the attitude taken, just with regard to kind of disregarding the upside that he did mention regarding family and home life, and just kind of recentering on loved ones, and then passing that off at the expense of only focusing on his business. And while I understand fully the stress that goes into owning a business and having your economic situation be distressed, again, I just thought that was a little bit of a disregard to kind of say, family and home life that has been increased is great, but ... and follow it with the negative. So it was kind of a mixed bag for me, where I of course was sympathizing slightly for the situation, but really what it did was anger me in the sense that someone could actually have that point of view where they really couldn't pick out a single upside or a single, point of positivity that was going to potentially emerge, or that had already emerged, from all of this negative circumstance. The anger wasn't personal. It should be clear that when I say it made me a little angry or fired me up, it was more just that this was possible, that it was possible for someone to be in a situation where they were so stressed and focused on the negative that they literally could not mention a single sense of positivity. And I guess it really led me to be inspired to bring this up to everyone here, and to just think about, how is this possible? And while I realize that my outlook might be more optimistic than most, thinking about this, the fact that you can always find a positive in a situation of negativity, I understand that there are emotions and dark times and things, just that get in your way sometimes, that are so difficult or so challenging that we, literally can only see the dark side of things. But whether that's happening to you or it's happening to someone else I guess what it made me realize was either we need to be able to find that in ourselves, to dig deep enough to always be able to do our best to see the bright side of a situation. And when we cannot do that, we need to seek out some kind of love or some kind of assistance from someone else who we're inspired by. Someone who may be able to help us see that. There is always light. Where there is dark, there's light. And even when things seem really dark for a really long time, there's always a light. You cannot have dark without light. You cannot have dark without brightness. So whether you're struggling with this kind of, position and just thinking that there's just nothing good about this situation, it's all terrible, it's all bad, it's all horrible, it's all horrendous, and you need a little pick-me-up, I really think it's about going to that person who you usually are inspired by, who usually does, pick you back up a little bit. On the flip side of that, if you are feeling pretty good about things and saying, hey, all things considered, I know this has been terrible, but we're surviving it. As I like to say, we might even be thriving the situation a little bit if you're just kind of, taken the bad and reworked your life a little bit or examined it and kind of put this energy that you were, previously putting into your 9-to-5 job or just kind of being solely, based on the goal of making money, but now you've been able to put that time into creativity or added time with family or, reading more, playing music, whatever it is that you're interested in. If you are in that spot where you're generally feeling like you're handling it pretty well, my message to you is going to be to find that person who might not be seeing it that way. The chances are between a friend or a family member that you have or just someone that you encounter as you are out on an outing, whether it's a grocery store worker or anyone, there's always a chance to bring a little brightness into people's day. And if you can bring it into their moment and their day and let it kind of resonate in some kind of way, there's a good chance that if and when they are ever really in that kind of down, dark spot, if they can't find anything else in their mind, they might be able to find you in that moment. And they might be able to use that as inspiration. I really think this is important right now. I'm not by any means sitting here and saying that it's always possible to find it within ourselves. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite message. If you need it, you go seek it out. And if someone else around you seems like they need it, then you provide it for them. Be the light, be the brightness, be the silver lining. Either create it for yourself if you can and say to yourself, I know this is terrible, but what's one thing about this? And like I said, in previous videos, I think you can always find something. And if you cannot find it, you go to someone you trust, someone you love, someone you respect, someone that inspires you, and you just be brutally honest and say, you know what, I'm struggling right now to see what the hell this is all about and how we're going to be able to, get out of this, in a positive way. And I guarantee you, if it's the right person, someone that you do trust, love, and that knows you, and someone that has, sparked a spark in you in the past, that they will be able to do that for you. Saving people from this mentality, like the gentleman that I read in this article where, at the end of the day, they just can't see anything positive coming, on the other side of this thing. Saving people from this is important. Saving ourselves from this is important. The less time we can spend feeling like that, and the more time we can spend feeling that there is a little bit of hope, a little bit more of hope, and a little bit more brightness and light out there, the better off everyone's going to be in the long run. And, regardless of how long all this lasts or what happens on the other end of it or what's even happening right now, this mentality is something that can really help everyone persevere through all this darkness. So the flip the script today is to ask yourself first, you know, is there any aspect of this whole situation right now that I just cannot find a positive attribute, you know, for? Is there anything about this that I'm really just struggling with, that I need a little pick-me-up on? And you take that and you go find someone that you trust and love and you share it with them and let them build you up. And then the flip side is not to go around hunting someone down that is potentially struggling, but if you look around or you hear someone and really listen to someone and you get an idea that someone might be in that position where they cannot, you know, see the bright side, or they're really down and out on it, and they're just kind of, you know, not, you know, they've shut off that ability to actually seek the light out, you know, without obviously, you know, stepping on their toes. If they'll let you in, or if they ever, you know, you ever hear someone making a comment, you know, this just seems like it's going on forever. It just seems like it's never going to end. You know, that's usually a pretty good candidate, you know, to be able to say to them, you know, like, hey, well look at it this way, or what's going on, and let's talk about it, figure it out a little bit. So, 2 challenges there. I hope if you do watch this and you've got any, you know, things on your, you know, that you're thinking about that you're struggling with, or you know, opinions on it, or points of view about it, that you use it, you know, as an opportunity to open up a discussion. Sometimes all it takes is just saying how you feel, or saying where you're at. So yeah, the answer is yes. There's always a silver lining, always. And if you can't find it on your own, that's okay. You find someone else and get them to help you out. People helping people is what it's all about. I hope you enjoyed this. As always, stay safe out there. And remember that the only dumb question is the one that goes unanswered. So let's ask them and answer them. Be courteous to one another. Be curious about all the beautiful things and crazy things in this universe. And let's think about them. We'll see you next time.